This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle Academy, where filmmakers and screenwriters go to learn from top Hollywood industry professionals. Learn more at ifhacademy.com. I'd like to welcome to the show Shane Hurlbut. How you doing, Shane?
Alex, how are you? I'm doing amazing. I'm doing freaking fantastic.
I feel that's the pandemic talking, sir.
No, not at all. I love to stay positive in every way, shape, and form. And one of the things that I was told by a mentor years ago is like, everyone always comes in to work and they always ask you how you're doing. And I only have two words: frickin' fantastic every single day. It sets the bar.
That's a great piece of advice. And it does set the day, because if you're the cinematographer, you walk on set and your crew's like, how are you doing? You're like, oh man, it's going to be a rough day. That's it. Just
exactly
kills the day.
Kills the day. But when you say, because a lot of times I'll be walking in and the, electric would come in and say, "Hey, Shane, how you doing?" I go, "I'm freaking fantastic. How are you?" And they're like, "Whoa, this is going to be an amazing day." And it just never changes.
Right. It's a good piece of advice. As directors listening as well, how you doing? Freaking fantastic. I love it.
Exactly. Yeah, stay positive. Stay positive.
So Shane, your career has been varied, man. You've gone from indie stuff to all the way to $200 million plus projects. You've done it all pretty much, and that can be done with in cinematography. How did you get started, man?
Yeah, that was an interesting journey. I thought I was going to be a DJ.
I've never heard that before.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. So I started doing the morning announcements at our high school, and everyone was like, "Wow, you got a really good voice. You should, go for radio." And up in upstate New York, we had this radio station that had this incredible guy. I think it was like 94 Rock, and it was a station that I listened to all the time. So I started to become a DJ. So I started doing dances and the prom and homecoming and all these different things, and went all over the local upstate New York area. And then when I decided to go to college, I was like, I don't want to really burn my parents' money. They were kind enough to say they would help me with my education. So I was like, let me test the waters. Let me see if I like this. So I went to a small community college just to see if I really fell in love with radio. Well, the first year was radio, totally loved it. The second year was television, and the television just blew my mind. That's where it just started to open up these kind of ideas and creative inspiration and everything. And then a friend of mine was directing. He was in the USC directing program, and he came back to our hometown, and he was doing a small movie that summer. And I just wanted to be a part of it in any way I could. And I was a PA, and then I was a grip, and I was an electric, and I was doing everything I could. And at that point, I got in with a full ride scholarship to Emerson College in Boston, and I went there. And that was where I just fell in love with film. But the funny thing is I hated cinematography. I thought I was going to be a producer because I could convince anybody to do anything I wanted, and I was good with numbers.
Fair enough.
Right? I had that passion. I was positive. I was like, all right, I could sell anything as well, So I was like, all right. After about 3 months of me wearing, my mom got me a nice 3-piece suit, and I was like pounding the pavement in Boston, knocking on doors, and every one of them was just slammed in my face saying, no, no, no. I went back and I said, all right, let me go back to the internship that I had, which was at a local grip, electric, and camera house in Boston. And that's where I started. And I started to fall in love with grip and lighting and camera. And then I got to a point where within 3 months, I was running the whole rental division. And then I decided that I was starting to go out on jobs because I came from a farm, right? So that's my upbringing. We had like a 300-acre farm in upstate New York, And so I could drive 10-ton trucks, 40-footers, whatever it was, I could drive it. So
Nice.
I started driving trucks, and I was the grip truck driver. And I started going out. I was managing the rental division and also going out on jobs.
Right.
And quickly I saw that the only way I was going to move up in Boston is if the guy or the girl that was above me died. So I knew it was a very limited pool there. So my fiance at the time, who was my high school sweetheart, Lydia, who I met at 3 years old, I said, Lydia, let's go to LA. Let's, make this mission, this exodus out of the East Coast and go to the West Coast. And that's what we did. And I started right back at the bottom again, working at a small little rental house. And then I got a job that they asked me to be the grip truck driver, which meant I had to leave my job at the rental house, which was, I finally had a full-time job and I was starting to bring in some money. $5 an hour on steel-toed boots and T-shirts and jeans working in the warehouse. But I finally said, okay, I'm going to go for it. So I got on this feature, and this feature was called Phantasm 2.
Nice.
This summer, the ball is back.
Nice.
Right? And I worked as a grip truck driver, and I was averaging about 18-hour days. I was getting $350 a week. So it ended up being like, 79 cents an hour or something like that when it was all said and done. So that was my break-in. And when I was, I was, because I knew the truck and organized and everything, I got a call on set. Terry Wimmer, the key grip, goes, Shane, run me in an 18 by 24 flag. So I ran in, grabbed the flag off the truck and ran it in. I was going down these steps into the crematorium set.
All right.
And this Best Boy Electric, Brian Coyne, very good friend of mine, is an amazing director of photography and director as well. He's walking up the stairs and he goes, would you be scared? And I go, Brian, what the hell are you talking about? I got to run this flag down into Terry. He goes, would you be scared in the theater? Look, every nook and cranny is lit. There's no shadow. It was like, bam. From that point on, all I looked at was light. And I went from a grip truck driver in 1988 to shooting my first music video for Nirvana, Come As You Are, in 1991.
Oh.
So in 3 years, I aspired. And it just, from that on, it was just off to the races.
That's awesome. What was it like shooting with Nirvana, man? I mean, that must have been insane.
Oh my God, I did 3. I did Come As You Are, I did In Bloom, and I did Lithium.
Wow.
And I did Stone Temple Pilots, Vaseline, Interstate Love Song.
Oh.
We did
all the 90s, all the great 90s bands.
All the grunge era. Yeah, I was really hot on the grunge era.
That's amazing. I have to ask you real quick, when you were coming up in the grip departments, did anyone ever just point over to a pile of cables that were about a mile long and said, detangle those for me?
Oh yes.
So did I.
Absolutely. And there were a lot of crazy gigs I got myself into. Condor operation was the worst for me because they put you up in that Condor 80, 90 feet in the air.
Jesus.
And I'll never forget one day, it was one of those stories that you remember back in the history of like, oh my God, I could have died kind of moment. I was working on some really bad, D movie for deferred pay. That was a big thing when I was getting
Did you get that? Did you get the deferred pay?
Never. I did like 20 of them, Alex. 20 of these, all on deferred pay. Never got paid a dime. So I'm in this Condor, and the wind starts kicking up, and it's got 2 18Ks in it. And the gaffer says, we need to bring it down. So I'm like, I go, I need to come down. This is way before all the, high-tech wind devices and everything and all the beautiful safety things that we have now that this would have never happened, but I was freaking out because the basket was moving around like crazy up there. And he's like, you know, you're not coming down. It's fine, you know? And I said, okay, you know, and all of a sudden this big wind gust came up, and all of a sudden that condor just started to go.
No.
So the thing starts slowly going, and it's starting to pick up steam and pick up steam and pick up steam. And I'm just looking, and I'm like, okay, and it's over a ledge, right? It's over like this ravine.
No.
So, and that thing's just going to go right over it, right? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's going to crush everyone down below me, and everything is coming down. So at about 20 feet, I disconnect my safety harness and I jump. So I land, you know, and roll, you know, just to the side of the ravine so I don't go off of it. And this lift literally comes down and parallels. And everyone, it was like, it was watching paint dry, even though it happened a lot faster, but it was like, eee. And then it just hung there. And then all of a sudden it was like, and then it just started gathering steam, you know, and everything. And then it just went whack like this. And the 18K shot out of the damn lift. And it was the coolest lighting effect I've ever seen in my life, because the 18Ks went boom. And then everything went jet black.
Oh my God.
And then the gaffer came over to me and he started yelling at me like
Yelling
crazy.
at you?
I know, like yelling at me. I almost killed myself, and I was going to kill everyone else too, because this thing would have gone right over the ravine and was going to take out the whole camera department. Oh my God.
And he yelled at you?
Yeah, he yelled at me. Yeah, that was that's how it was done back then.
Oh my God. So you literally, I mean, if you would have been, it could have easily, instead of stopping, you could have kept going because of your weight.
Oh yeah, it would have kept on going because, you know, here was we were shooting on a road like this, and the condor was out like this, backlighting it, kind of a hot top light. So I was going like this over the ravine with the 18K. So I jumped just to the side of the road and rolled down this thing. So it would have gone over, caught that nick, and then the whole condor would have gone over the edge.
Oh my God. It's insane. What year was this? Was this the 90s?
Oh, this
No,
is
80s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the 80s were how we survived the 80s as a general statement is
That's so right.
It's like kids today are like looking around like, this hurts or that hurts. I'm like, are you kidding me? What we had, just look at our playgrounds.
I know.
In the 70s and 80s.
I know, our playgrounds were literally torture chambers.
They were death traps.
Now they're like, you know, they got the foam, and the rubber everywhere. So if you fall and you bounce, and it's beautiful.
No, it was straight concrete. It was straight concrete. 5 stories up on the monkey bars, you would fall, crack your skull, or you would go to the top story of the slide that was metal, and on your shorts in the middle of the summer and get 3rd-degree burns. And your skin's peeling off because it's so damn hot. You're like, now it's all plastic and it's all like, it's that's why. Yes, exactly. That's an amazing story. So you've lit some very large sets and some very big action sequences. I'm thinking of Terminator. How do you approach lighting these massive set pieces? I mean, these sets are massive with, hundreds, if not thousands of people running around, VFX you're thinking about, practicals. I mean, just as a cinematographer, how do you approach mentally to cover that and light it and then cover it?
Yeah. So, the kind of big footprint, lighting setups are something that I absolutely love. It kind of, you think about it, I kind of take it apart like let's say a football field, right? If you could shoot 3 directions on it with the light. If I light it from this direction, then it's a side light to this way, it's a side light that way, and it's a backlit this way. Mm-hmm. So you got 3 areas that you can cover from creating one big light source, let's say. So let's take Terminator Salvation, for example, the processing plant that we did,
Oh yeah.
where, all those people are being pushed by that bulldozer thing that, I embedded these spikes in it and these lights that erupt and it starts pushing the people. And we kind of, I wanted, everything is all about the, lighting the background first, then lighting the midground, then eventually the foreground, where the actors might be playing. So my big thing for that was, okay, how can I create this incredibly, um, you know, really scary tone in this Terminator Salvation processing plant? So I was like, all right, what if I get some metal halide lights and get like 60 of them and line them up on basically creates stadium lights.
Mm-hmm.
So we created these massive 55-foot pettibones with, I think it was like 20 metal halides on each one. And they were like in racks of, 5 across, 4 high. And we catapulted those up. And what I wanted to do, and you don't see it in the movie because they cut it out beforehand, but what these things did is they aimed straight up in the air and they were all full spot. And it almost looked like a tractor beam. And that was the whole idea, is through the fog and the dirt and all that stuff, this was the guiding light for, the transporters to come in and settle down into the area. It was like this tractor beam. And then I racked them straight up. And then as they came in and landed, these things started to tilt down and just, expose the whole bed of several transporters that are dropping all these people off. So that was my first big approach for lighting something that was like 5 football fields long and a football field wide, is just the motivation of what the emotion is. Like, okay, these are the machines. Let's go metal halide. Let's turn it that blue-green kind of nastiness. Let's inject these white beaming lights that flare the lens and are foreboding and dangerous for people. And then do it in a way that, I put a very subtle amount of fill, so it still had that dark nature to it, but you could barely see into the shadows areas to see that emotion from their faces and stuff. So, lighting the big venues is usually starting with just one big source. And where is that one big source coming from? Right. I could go to like Greatest Game, where I would take a huge grand ballroom at Copley, at like the Copley Place, and it was up in Montreal, and we found this amazing ornate turn of the century ballroom. And it's like the bones are there. There's beautiful, warm practicals and everything. But if it's just that and just the window light, it doesn't feel grand. So it's like you have to bring that out with, I put a huge source on the right-hand side that was out of frame that was 12 by 12 bleached muslins, and I pounded 18Ks into them and then shaped it with siders and toppers to feel like more window light that we don't see. Like the ballroom goes on forever.
Right.
And again, that's also the thing of selling the illusion, right? So we still have a beautiful wide shot from the second story, and we're pushing in ever so slightly, but wow, there's this light coming in, so the ballroom must be going on for even more, So lighting also, these elements create the illusion of bigger locations than they actually are. So just by bringing in that kind of cold tone mixed with the warm practicals and the sconces that are on the wall, it was a very easy light in that location because it just basically was started with practicals and one huge source. I try to kiss it. Keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
It's like the more you add lights, the more complicated everything gets. So I try to, start with one big source and then slowly add on to that. And the background is something that is everything to me. So I light that first and create all the depth and dimension, whether it's bokeh, whether it's, out of focus other highlights, or whatever it is that plays with light and shadow back there to give it depth and dimension, that three-dimensional quality. And then I slowly move to the midground and then to the foreground where the actors are moving. And I generally try to light an area, not marks. One thing that Harris Savides taught me, and he was so spot on with this, he goes, Shane, light an area, not a mark, because you want the actors to feel that they can move in this area and that it feels not so perfect and a little like it's beauty raw, I would say. And that's where I'd say Ben Hoytman, he's another amazing director of photography, and he lights exactly like that. It's imperfect, but it's still beautiful. It has that rawness to it, and you do that by just lighting an area and not necessarily lighting marks. Because lighting marks, they're gonna nail their mark, and you can have the perfect wrap on the key light and the perfect backlight and nice fill and everything. But when you have to light a larger area for them to move in, the imperfections of the light actually add to authenticity and reality, and I feel it feels more organic.
There's a movie that when I speak to cinematographers of all status, from the early, guys just trying to come up to established cinematographers like yourself, there's a movie, and there's many movies we can point to, but there's one movie that I personally love, but it is kind of like this holy grail of cinematography in many ways. There are many holy grails of cinematography, but this is one. Searching for Bobby Fischer is one of those, because, and I always ask, I'm like, it's a family film. It's like, it's not grand, it's not flashy, but when I talk to cinematographers about that film, it was Conrad, right? It was Conrad Hall?
Yeah, Conrad Hall, yep.
Yeah. He was doing things that no one had done before. He was using mirrors. Do you know what he did and how he lit that?
Yeah, I worked with Conrad Hall a little bit for a very short stint as like a gaffer kind of slash grip scenario. And one of the things I was amazed with is he's a hard light lighter. That's what he does. Hard light is his best. That's his toolbox. And what he does is every light on set is full spot.
Really?
There's no full flood. So if he's trying to cast shadows, yes, of course, he's going to full flood it so he can get the hard shadows. But when he's lighting a face, that light is full spot, and then it's scrimmed down to exactly the right level. So we were constantly I was like, when I'd walk on set, I was like, what is with all these double and triple scrim bags on these damn lights? I'm thinking, who the hell needs that many scrims, And then all of a sudden he's like, spotting the thing in, and I'm like, damn, that's bright. And all of a sudden the full house became the thing. Two doubles and a single, boom, full house it. Okay, another full house. And I'm like, how the hell does that even fit in there? And they're, grip clipping the things on the outside,
right.
to take it down. But that was how he lit. And Searching for Bobby Fischer used tons of that hard shadow and hard light to really show the emotions of them and all the characters. And, another great one is Road to Perdition.
Oh,
where
so
that's
gorgeous.
all lit hard light, and the way he positions them, and once working with him, my moonlight is always silver. It's like he really dialed in the silver moonlight. There was nobody that did silver moonlight like him, and that's something that I responded to, and I've always done. My silver moonlight is where it's at. And another person that does that very well is Bob Richardson.
Oh,
like Snow Falling on Cedars is probably within the top 5 greatest cinematic achievements ever.
Wow.
I don't know if you've ever seen
No,
that
I haven't.
movie.
I haven't seen that one.
Snow Falling on Cedars is an absolute masterpiece.
Wow.
And it's people always say, Shane, what is this with your style of only lighting from one side? I'm like, guys, just look at snow falling on cedars. It's got it. And, it's like, because what I love is that just that timeless light from one side. The fill never crosses over to this side. Everything is lit from one side or the other. And then you use the background to separate the dark side. And that's
And
just
you don't
something
fill?
that
And you don't fill, or you do a little fill?
I fill from over camera. I never fill from the opposite side. Everything
Really?
is 180 degrees. Yeah.
Interesting. So you don't do standard 3-point lighting as they've taught in school. It's different.
No, it's 3-point lighting all from one side.
Interesting. That's a
So
really
the backlight is on the same side as the key light,
right.
the same side of the fill light. So everything is coming. So the backlight is not a dead back; it's a 3/4 back.
Right.
And then you add the softness of a key or a hard light of a key. So that's like a key on key scenario, as I call it, because you're keying with the backlight as well as wrapping the fill. And then what I'll do is I'll do this kind of a J shape that goes from hard to semi-hard to soft to super soft, all the way around. And that's kind of, if I'm doing any kind of scenario where people are walking into frame or I'm lighting an area, that's kind of how I attack it. It's like, it starts hard and then it moves around to like, just a cream source with magic cloth.
Nice. That's a very, very interesting way of going about it. Now, there's we get caught up so much with cameras. Our cinematographers and filmmakers get caught up with like, what's the latest K? What's the latest this? How many? I need 45K. Really? Do you need 45K? Do you really need? Are you shooting IMAX really for $500 for $50,000 independent feature? You need the 45K. So what is your the one thing I always tell filmmakers when they're like, what should I invest in? And I go, glass. If you're going to invest, it's always glass. Glass doesn't go unless you're shooting 45K. Then you might need to figure out glass that's big enough to cover the sensor. But
exactly.
But what glass do you are drawn to for your projects? Is it a per project basis, or is there a specific kind of glass that you really like? Because I know cinematographers and their glass is they're very specific about what they really love.
Yeah, absolutely. It is based on per project because I feel that the glass is the soul of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The camera is the tool. It's kind of let's say it's the foundation of and that the foundation, and let's say it's the mortar, but the bricks, the soul of the building is the glass. And I've gone like every project, like let's say greatest game ever played, right? Working with Bill Paxton, we stumbled onto a look of this book called Bound for Glory, which was all these reclaimed. They found them in some person's attic in Kansas City, Missouri, that were all these old Kodachrome prints from the FSA era. And because the FSA had shot black and white throughout the whole time, but when Kodak came out with Kodachrome in the late 1930s, 1,600 prints were struck. And these were printed in this book, Bound for Glory. And both Bill and I really resonated that this is going to be the look for the greatest game. We wanted it to feel period, but we also wanted it to have a contemporary style to camera. So it's like we delivered a period look, but the camera, we flew with the camera, with the ball and went into the hole. And we, showed the power of each individual golfer, got inside their head. And so I did a lot of research on, old glass, and I went to Panavision and I just dug into their archives for about 3 days. And I came out with these old Zeiss Ultra Speeds Mark IIs. They were like made in the late 60s, and their coating was not the greatest. And when you put them down to a T2, they started to really fall. There was even a lens that was specifically done for Stanley Kubrick, and that was a 50 mil at a T1, right? So I always had that one in my arsenal. I grabbed that one. I had the 55. We called it the jacked up 50 or the double nickel. They were all these weird focal lengths. A 20, a 29.
29. Wow.
Yeah, 29, which is the greatest Steadicam lens on the planet, the 29. It had like the double nickel, the 55. It had 16. It had just all these very weird focal lengths, and we did a series of tests, and it took me 20 different sets to find a matching 3 set. Right? Either yellow or just all jacked up, and they were. Everyone was like, "Why are you shooting with these things, Shane?" These things were $15 a day to rent. That's it. $15 a day.
Wow.
And then once they were like, Panavision kept on saying, wow, Shane's really, when I did semi-pro, I used that same glass.
Yeah.
When I did We Are Marshall, I used that same glass because it has a great period look. And they're like, what is going on with Shane? Why is he always shooting with these things? We got to investigate these. So then they took them and turned them into the classics now. So I think they call them the vintage primes. So all the Mark IIs were rehoused because the one thing shooting with them, which is difficult, some lenses had this, some lenses had that, some lenses had this. They were all over the map. So it created all these donuts and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It really slows the filmmaking process down every time you change a lens, right? So they P-vintaged these, put a new coating on them, and then rehoused them so they were all the same millimeter diameter. And now they go for $150 a day. But it was the same glass I used for $15 a day. And you can still get the Mark IIs that are not P-vintage, and I go to those a lot as well. I'm always constantly, bringing my set that I had resurrected. I'm like, can you find the serial numbers from back in the day of yore? And they're like, yes, we have them in your system. Here they are. And those are the lenses I end up shooting with. So I love the old vintage glass. I'm not the big anamorphic guy. I know anamorphic is a massive craze right now. Everyone's all into this thing. I couldn't be further from that. I like spherical. Spherical feels more real. Spherical feels more intimate. And when you get those wide angles pushed in close and really into the scene, which you cannot do with anamorphics because they cannot focus, you don't feel intimate with the actors. I always feel anamorphic lenses, you're a pedestrian. Why would you want that? Now, of course, there's tons of movies that don't feel like pedestrian that have been shot on anamorphics that are awesome. This is just my point of view. This is how I look at lenses and how I feel, because I'm much more of a person that not a long lensier, stand back and lens in. I like to be much more immersive. That really started with all the sports movies I started to do, because I felt, getting inside the action and inside the game was much more powerful than showing the audience what they've already seen on television, right? From the outside. Now, what you have to do is a beautiful balance of lensing from the outside to show geography and getting into the game. You can't just do in the game, because then nobody knows where the hell you are on the field. So you do need those outside in shots. And that's something where I call it the inside out, right? It's like I try to first take apart the scene from doing it all inside the game. So you feel completely intimate. And then you say, what do you need to tell the story geography? And that's what you use from the outside. So it's not like, okay, let's establish it. It's not outside in, it's inside out.
Now, have you ever shot with a canoptic?
Oh my God. Yeah, I got that camera.
That.
They sent that thing to me.
No, not the camera, the lens, the canoptic,
I thought you were talking about that weird Chinese.
No, not that one. No, I love vintage lenses, so I'm a vintage hound for lenses. The canoptic 9.2, which is what Kubrick shot, shining inside the maze, shining following the boy, and then in Clockwork Orange, if you the panning right before they break in, they pan from
Right.
that. That's all. Of it's
Oh,
a
wow. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a 9.2 without fisheye. So then I got the 16 version of that. Sorry guys, we're gonna geek out for a second. I got the 16. I got the 16 millimeter version of that, which is a 5.7, and connected it to the Blackmagic Pocket 1080p, and it's stunning. I shot my last feature with it. It's
Oh,
stunning.
wow.
It's just no fisheye, but you need light.
Yeah.
It's great for outside. Inside, you got to pump some light into it. But it's I always tell DPs about that, and they're like, "You mean no fisheye? Like it's such an old lens that it's I call it the Kubrick because Stanley
Yeah.
loved shooting with that. Have you ever shot with it?
No, I haven't. I got to check that thing out. I mean, I do
It's
love the
old.
Kawas. I've
Yeah,
always
those
been
are
a
nice.
fan of the Kawas. I really like those. I like the old, the a lot of the Zeiss that they took like the coatings off.
Oh yeah, those are nice.
And all those guys have done a lot of re-engineering on a lot of the older glass. But I do, like I said, it's project by project. But one thing that I've been doing a lot lately is using Leica, and I've always been a fan of Leica.
They're
If you
gorgeous.
look at all the Panavision glass, Panavision were lights glass. It was not Panavision glass; it was lights glass. So, and that's what I really responded to coming up in my career. I was all about the Panavision Primo Prime. So when the new Summicrons and Summoluxes came out with the Leicas, I did tests on both, and I found that the Summoluxes with the 1.3 give you an amazing shallow depth of field and much more of a flatter feel. They're very clinical.
Mm-hmm.
But the Summicrons at a T2 and basically $10,000 less a lens, they have more of the imperfections, and they're better with skin.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't flatten out a face. The face has dimension. So those have been like my secret weapon for a lot of the work that I've been doing lately. Is I just love the Summicrons, and I don't need a 1.3. I love my T2, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then you go for like Need for Speed. I shot with Cook S4s. I love that. Fathers and Daughters, Cook S4s. Terminator, I shot with Panavision Primos. I loved the way they flared. I loved the
Yeah, the flares were nice in that film.
contrast.
Mm.
Also, the contrast of those lenses. They have a real good contrast ratio. So yeah, it's really per project for sure. And I think, I was interviewing for a project recently, and I was like, there were kind of two different worlds, and I was looking at a lot of tests with the Agenus,
Mm-hmm.
those new Premiere Primes that came out, and that glass has a slight magenta to it. It's got a slight softness in the center, and it creams out beautifully. So I was going to use that for this area of the movie, and then the more kind of raw and gritty. I was actually going to do like the Zeiss signature primes that have much more of a bold, contrasty look. So just using glass to tell the story and not necessarily your color correction bag.
I wanted to ask you. I always love asking DPs this. What was the best time you've ever had on set? Like the most fun that you like everything was clicking. Either just something that happened fun on the set, or the lighting was just like I nailed it.
Oh, let's see. There's been a lot of those moments. One I think that really comes to mind, and it has a soft part in my heart, was when I was doing We Are Marshall.
Oh,
We
great movie.
were shooting and in Huntington, West Virginia for the first 3 weeks of the movie. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were all at those locations where it all went down. We
Mm-hmm.
went to the airfield where the plane crashed. We went to the university and took all that flavor in. And there was a scene that we did out in the middle of nowhere on this lone road where Matthew Fox, who is Red, who did not hop on the plane, he drove. And it was, my dad had come down with pancreatitis, and I've never had to leave a movie. And they told me he was going to die. So I went to Mick G and I said, Mick G, I need a week off. I got to go see my dad. He's on his deathbed. So I flew back to Syracuse, New York, and stayed with my dad for a week. And he actually turned around. And when I flew back, the first shot I did was this lone road with the isolated gas station in the middle of nowhere. And I just remember coming up and I'm like, all right, let's encircle that thing with yellow fluorescence around the exterior. Let's put a metal halide back behind to glow those trees, and let's put one lone, two 24 light Dinos on a 120-foot condor and just bring moonlight down the street, wet it down so it has that glisten. And I just put the camera didn't even have to move. It was just like, bam. And we see that lone car with the headlights, and he pulls over to the gas station. And it was like, those are one of those iconic moments where, my God, I thought my dad was going to die. I, stumble on set, basically got off the plane right, in night exterior. So I had to turn myself around into nights. And, this was the first frame that came out of me after all that emotion that I had gone through. And that was like a very defining moment. And then recently, I worked on this movie that was like a teen rom-com. And it was with a director, Emily Ting. And she was from Hong Kong, and she had an amazing pitch deck on the movie, and her vision was very strong. And we just completely bonded, shot listing and coming up with this thing. And the last 3 days of the film were our big dance numbers, because they did the musical Bye Bye Birdie. And I and Emily and the production designer did not want to do it like most high school musicals would have done it, very literally. We wanted to take a very kind of surreal take on this, and very abstract in the lighting. And then working with the dance team and the choreography to be able to put all these lights in, and how they positioned and moved with the dancers. And I'm just telling you, I was at that monitor, and when the shit all came together, it was absolute magic. And it was like one of those kind of moments where you just look back and you say, my God, I love when, it's all the departments just all, fueling on 12 cylinders. It's like you got production design just knocking out the set and the abstract nature of it. You got my lighting team that is just bringing the excellence and precision. You got the dancers delivering every single time, no matter how many times I said, okay, we got to do it again. And it's like the 80th time. And they were like saying, Shane, we see so much of your passion and what you're in. When you told us we had to do it for the 81st time, we were all in, even though we were spent, and it's like that kind of positive nature, and seeing it all happen on screen. And then the wave of accolades from the choreographer to the dancers to everyone saying that they just felt like, this small little unit was making everything so special, and we cared so much that they were represented so beautifully. And I don't know, it's just one of those kind of moments where you kind of just, you sit back and you say, God, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do.
That's awesome. Now, do you have any business advice that you wish you would have heard at the beginning of your cinematography career?
The biggest advice I can give to people is that it takes time to be a filmmaker.
Right.
it's not something that you can just pick up a camera and start making movies. Experience cannot be overlooked, and it cannot be so shortcut. It's not a shortcut. You have to go through the process of failure and succeed and failure. I mean, I failed so much when I was first starting out. My God, I'll never forget my first gaffing gig. I was doing a Barbie commercial, and we had started outside day exteriors, so I had set my meter at 50 ASA, and I was out there exposing film and all great. And then we came into the sound stage. Well, I forgot to change my. So we're lighting this thing, the whole thing, and then I went up to the DP and I said, I just want to tell you, I've been rating this at 50 ASA, and he freaked out. You know, that was 2.5 stops overexposed.
Mm-hmm.
He was worried with the Barbie and the client. And
The
this
shot, but they shot at that ASA. Like they shot. This is pre-shooting or after you lit it and they shot.
We were shooting this whole time. And then I realized after lunch that I had set my meter wrong. So everything that we had shot up to lunch was basically burnt. 2.5 stops overexposed. So, you know, we had to go back to the agency and the creatives, and that put him in a very difficult place. And, you know, these are things that, you know, these big mistakes, but you got to learn from them. And this is what I talk about with the experience. You got to put yourself out there, and you got to know you're going to fail. And I just, that's my whole mantra, is like, I just want to continue to challenge myself, push myself out of my comfort zone. You know, there's, even as at my career right now, I make mistakes. You know, I try new things, and I'm like, God, what was I thinking with this? You know, that didn't work. But, you know, you pick yourself up, you cinch those suspenders, and you on. And so my biggest advice to anyone starting out in this industry is, you want to start at a rental house, bar none. If you want to be a director of photography, you got to get your hands on the camera. You got to listen to the people that are coming in. You got to listen to what they're using. You got to take all that in. That's experience that you're building that's happening just organically. Right. It's like all you have to do is get that camera out there, and you just listen while you're doing stuff. Why are they using this type of filter? Or why are they setting the camera up this way? I'm going to mental note on that. And the same with a grip and electric house. You know, I started out in a rental house. So on Terminator Salvation, in the big mine escape, you know, where they go through the landmine, and it's all one shot, you know, beautifully choreographed, where we're going with them and all that stuff. We had a xenon, 4K xenon on a scaffolding tower as our quote unquote searchlight. Right when we were about ready to go, the light goes out. Well, everyone's scrambling and they don't know what's happening and all that stuff. And I had this duster jacket. They called me the Crow. And I run across, and the thing flipped in the wind, you know, and I run to the xenon, and I pop out the side panel, and the fuse is blown. And I take it, I grab some aluminum foil, I wrap it around the damn thing, jam it in there, hit the transformer, and boom, the light ignites. And I run back, and they're like, holy shit, how did you know how to do that? And I'm like, well, these were workarounds in the rental house when, you know, we wanted to see if the light fired, and we didn't have the fuse, and these fuses were a specific one that necessarily we didn't carry all the time. And this was the workaround. So it's like, I'm constantly at, even to this day, where, you know, there's so many new people coming up the ladder, and with this tax incentive states and Atlanta just exploding, and there's not enough crew there to really support the movies. So a lot of people are just walking off, you know, farming community and construction sites, and all of a sudden, you know, right to work, they're gripping electrics. So I'm constantly trying to, you know, teach this, you know, this new age of people that were quote unquote did not go to film school. They just are doing it for the money. That's that new regime that I'm seeing within the industry. That's been a big shift that I started feeling in 2018. when I went up to Canada, and all of my electrics were on permits, and they had all been on oil dikes just a month earlier.
And they had
So
never been, and they'd never been on set before.
no, no.
How do you hire someone who's never been on set before to work in grip and electric? How does that work? You have to. I mean, there's so much you have to learn.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
Like what's what's a
that's
flag? What's a C stand? I mean, like basic
yeah,
stuff.
yes.
And and that was the crew that would have given to you, and you're just like, I got to roll with this, and I got to teach everybody. And did you just send them to your academy online?
Basically, yes. I started after that moment in 2017, 2018. I created a grip and electric platform. So it teaches them how to use C-stands, how to set flags, what they are, what they're called, how to run power, how to plug it in, how to distribute power, all that stuff. I just started doing grip and electric because I'm like, I come up and the first thing I do is I gift it to every grip and electric that's on my crew. And the people that are experienced, they're like, I got this. Or the people that aren't, they take it. And at least they have some kind of infrastructure and awareness to like what things are called and how to use stuff.
So is that I mean, obviously, I mean, you're a seasoned cinematographer, so some of these projects, obviously, you can't fly everybody in from LA, so you have to deal with locals,
Yes.
and that's the locals they have because there just literally is no other crew in the area that could handle, or they're busy when they're busy on other projects or something.
Yeah, correct. When I did Resident Alien in the fall of 2018, there were 78 series and
Yeah,
films in Vancouver.
yeah, they're gone.
Right. So
Right.
everyone was gone, you know.
So you roll with whatever you had to roll with at the time.
Yeah. And, this is the new norm I see because, there's so much production going on and it just literally, and most of these places might have 8 to 10 teams deep, might. Right. So that's 8 features. And then if you have rigging teams, then you're taking out a whole other plethora of technicians. So yeah, it's been a sometimes you get just amazing talent and then there's sometimes that you don't and you try your best to
Right.
work with it, but I've kind of set a positive spin on it because I do love teaching as well. And so I try to set it up so they're learning as much as they can, and I take the time when I can to kind of educate them and get them up to speed.
That's it seems like a pretty big load to carry as a cinematographer on a project live, to be like shooting and also educating your crew at the same time. I mean, from my experience on set, that's a pretty difficult thing to do. So God bless you, sir.
It is. And it's so funny because all the ADs always give me a ton of shit. They're all right. We're having a Hurlbut Academy moment,
Right, because
all right, now this is how and I'll go into it, and he goes, all right, hold on, crew, we're having a Hurlbut Academy moment right here while I'm teaching the guy, and I'm like, dude, don't expose me for Christ's sake.
I mean, it's for people who haven't been on set. It can be a rough place to be sometimes, especially when you got those older gnarly gaffer grips, first ADs, production designers, like heads. They can definitely rub you. No question. Do you have any low budget lighting tips for independent filmmakers because there's so many features being made at micro budgets of 50, 100, 150 or lower to get a decent image, because the cameras are really sensitive. I mean, you could get a lot out of some of these low budget cameras.
Oh, absolutely. I think that, like the Venice and the Red Gemini, let's say, has really opened up, and the Panasonic VariCam at the 5000 ASA, this kind of dual ASA scenario that the Venice as well as the Gemini and the Panasonic have, the super sensitivity. I would say, practicals are your best friends. And what I did with the Canon C500 on Need for Speed and Fathers and Daughters is I would literally take that camera and plop it down. I call them shit sticks, right? So they're like those little carbon fiber kind of plasticky sticks, and I slapped the camera on it, and I would not light the room until that camera was up and turned on, because the Gemini, that Canon, the Venice, and the Panasonic, they see light that and add contrast that your eyes don't.
Right. It's gone beyond the eye now.
Yeah. So that you can say, wow, that practical's doing really well. I don't have to simulate that, or this is looking really good here. And then I will roll my color temperature wheel and find that what's looking really good in the set. And then I start to light. And, from a DIY standpoint, having practicals around that you can position and kind of help light the rooms and stuff is one thing. The other thing is just embracing, Home Depot and Lowe's. I love clamp lights. I still use them all the time. I'm using clamp lights all the time. I'm putting those under cabinet lights.
They're gorgeous.
From Home Depot. I'm using the LED strips to stick underneath things. I tend to I like the old dusk to dawn fixtures, the metal halide and sodium vapor. So I'll buy a couple of those, and I can illuminate those because they match street lights perfectly. So you don't have to worry about gel. You don't have to worry about all those things. Obviously, the sky panels will match that source. But if you don't have the money, you can pick up a dusk to dawn for under $60, and 400 water puts out a lot of light. And you look at Swing Vote and Crazy Beautiful, and those films I lit all with those sodium vapor lights that were all from Home Depot. And just going in and using fluorescents for when you want to use them. I'd get shop fluorescents and cool white bulbs, and that's what I'd hang in the ceiling for over the kitchen area, because they lived in a trailer, and trailers always had that kind of weird recessed panel that was there with the fluorescent lights up into it. So let's be real. Let's deliver the light that's reality. So I just screwed some shop fluorescents to the ceiling and put them up. So there's a whole plethora of DIY tips. With the clamp lights, with those fluorescents, with the new LED sticks and strips and LED ribbon.
China balls. Don't forget China balls. China balls are always...
China balls. Yeah, always using China balls. And then I shape them with, black tablecloth. Plastic tablecloth works beautifully. You don't have to use duvetine. You can use black tablecloth, because black tablecloth doesn't have the sheen of visqueen. It's matte. So it's very much like duvetine, just not fire retardant and obviously thick and heavy. So the black tablecloth works beautifully to shape lights in different locations and ceilings where you can't, be rigging these big toppers and everything because you can't compromise the location. Some good frogs tape and black tablecloth, and you're off to the races.
Great tips. Which brings me to your online academy. Please tell me about your labor of love that is the Hurlbut Academy.
Yeah. So, this is something that in 2009, when I was shooting Act of Valor, we literally flew around the world twice on that movie. We were down in Puerto Rico where we were shooting the bad guys kind of, lair in Puerto Rico. And we stayed at this amazing hotel that was on the west side of the island. And my wife came down to be with me for a week. And we were sitting in bed one night, and I was planning out my shot list for the next day. And she goes, Shane, what you're doing with this DSLR platform and how you have kind of spearheaded this revolution, we need to talk about this. We need to share your knowledge and really ignite a revolution. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
I'm just shooting here.
I'm a cinematographer. And she goes, I'm going to brand you. Right. And I'm like, I'm a cinematographer, not a brand. And sure enough, with her vision and forward future thinking ways, she, said, let's start this blog and let's share knowledge. And I was like, okay, sounds great. So we started this little blog, and the blog just exploded during the DSLR revolution because I was doing things that everyone was like, what? You're shooting a major feature film that's going to go in 9,000 theater screens on a DSLR still camera, right? And I'm like, yeah, and this is the settings that make your camera cinematic, and this is what ISO you want to shoot at to have the lower noise, and this is the lenses that you want to fabricate to, so it just like exploded. And based on that, they wanted more and more and ask for more and give, let's start your writing's great, but we want video content. So then in 2014, we launched Shane's Inner Circle. Yeah. And that was our first stab at a membership platform. And we really didn't know what the heck we were doing. All I knew is I had passion, and I had this God-given talent to really inspire people and teach. And I just wanted to throw gasoline on anyone who wanted to be a part of it, to just, fuel that flame. And so we started out, and we said it was going to be like the Netflix for filmmakers. We made it super cheap because I didn't want all the weight of the world on me to produce all this content. If it was really expensive, then the weight of the world was going to be on me, and I wasn't going to be able to be a cinematographer. So we started out with just little longer blog posts and more depth and going down rabbit holes. And then we just started video content. And when the video content hit and we saw how people responded to it, it was like, all right, let's start to structure where I can be a cinematographer and then do my movie and then come back and start shooting and creating this content. And we just started to do it at the grandest scale. We started 40 footers, 50 man and women crew, full on catering and production and all the stuff to be able to put this together. And it blossomed into what the Hurlbut Academy is right now, which is, basically our tagline now, which is going to be the Filmmakers Academy very soon, is master your craft. And we basically, with this platform, we're bringing all my friends and all my loyal, vendors and everyone that have helped shape me as a cinematographer. I'm now inspiring them and finding the ones that really want to teach and give back. And now we're going to get this team of A-listers together, and we're just going to really come out swinging. And the Filmmakers Academy is going to be all about that top level that you aspire to, right? It's like as much as I love the DIY tips and kind of the popsicle sticks and gaffer's tape stuff, if I teach at that level, where do they have to aspire to? You need to teach at the highest level, and it's their learning and their experience that's going to scale it. Because if I do it at their level, then I've already filled in the blanks and I've already done their job for them. Mm-hmm. What I want them to do is exactly what I did when I was a cinematographer coming up the ladder. I looked at Roger Deakins and Bob Richardson and Emmanuel Lubensky, and I was like looking at the style of light and how they softened it and everything. And that was my mantra. Even when I was doing like the low budget music videos and little commercials and all the stuff where I didn't have the big 18Ks and everything that they had, in my mind, I had to scale it. And that shaped me as a cinematographer. So I'm like, this is how we educate. We educate at the highest level, but we do it in a way that's very fun. It's kind of, what do we call it?
Edutainment.
Edutainment, It's like I like to have fun. I give people shit on the crew. I'm always like, what are you doing? Oh, nice job. You cut that one short. All right, get another one. You're fired. It's like
Right, right.
we keep the set really light and airy, and you see every single stroke. And because I came up on the technical side and did everything like grip and camera, I'm setting every flag. I'm, panning every light, spotting every light in, diffusing every light, setting the lens, doing all this so you see every finesse. And that's when it all started to happen for me as an educator, as I saw, oh my God, when we shoot this like a live sporting event, and there's like 6 or 7 cameras, you feel like you're on my shoulder and
Right.
you're immersive. And that's the way I make my movies, is being right with you and very immersive, and the camera moves and flows with you. So I wanted the same thing with our education, and that's when we really started to kick ass and to take
Great.
off.
Well, I'll definitely put a link to the show notes for that. I have a few questions to ask all my guests. What advice would you give a filmmaker trying to break into the business today?
Break in the business, start at a rental house. Know that it's going to take some time for you to get your experience. Do not get frustrated. Okay, there's going to be times where things don't work out, and you seem like you're working way too hard. And I gave a Hurlbut Academy member, because the first 100 people that signed up for all access, I gave them an hour-long phone call.
Nice.
And this guy called me from Australia, and he had heard my advice way on the blog talking about going to a rental house. So he was at a rental house. And I said, okay, so how long have you been at the rental house? And he says, 5 years. And I said, you've been there 4 years too long. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, the rental house is your brick and mortar. That's where you're starting to figure it out. But you need to get on set now. You've already gone past your sell-by date. So I'm going to tell you how to get off and how to get out on sets. So I said, all right, so what do you do there? He goes, well, I'm the lead prep tech. All right. Okay, perfect. So you being the lead prep tech, you want to go into the marketing guy and you say who's coming in. And obviously you'll see the list and who it is. And you call up that first AC and you say, hey, Alex, how you doing today? I am, John Doe. I am your lead prep tech at this rental house. And I was just wondering, is there, could we go get carts for you? Is there any place that you're storing your carts and I can have the truck come and get your carts? And are you a coffee drinker? Do you like coffee? And what do you like for breakfast in the morning? And he brought that stuff in. He started to do all those calls. And then I said, and also take note of what you see them do. So if they are labeling the cases, then you label them the cases before they get there. Label them with the millimeters, the close focus, and the T-stop of every one of them. They do that. They're going to do Velcro filter tabs. What their filter is. Start making those in your home. And he was like, boy, that's a lot of work. I said, this is what you need to do to set yourself apart from all the other people that are trying to do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Right? And literally, this advice I gave him, and he was out of the rental house in less than a month. And he's been working in the field ever since.
Good for him.
These are the small little nuances. And it's not brown nosing at all.
No.
It's just preparing yourself this is exactly what you're going to do on the set. When you're a digital utility, what are you doing? You're getting the guy coffee, you're getting the guy lunch, you're doing everything to set him up. You're coming in early, getting the carts off the truck, getting it all organized. You're showing him or her that you are already in that mindset, that you know exactly what is going to be demanded of you, and you're not going to be the quote unquote just rental house prep tech. And these are the things that set you above. It's the same way I did when I got out of the grip and electric. I was just like a guy who stacked, grip shelves and trucks. Mm-hmm. The only reason that I got hired on Phantasm 2 is because the producer, was making the deal with the rental manager, and they happened to look out the window, and they saw me running back and forth from the grip truck to the warehouse and back. And the guy goes, "Who's that guy?" And they go, "That's that guy from Boston that just came in. His name's Shane. He is a scrapper, man. We offered him $5 an hour, and he took it, and he just runs circles around everyone." Where was I? I was out of that place immediately. It's like you have to do more than is required.
Amen.
And when you do that, you set a tone. Just like we're going to circle right back and bookmark this son of a bitch and bookend it right here. Because what did I say in the beginning? There's only 2 words that come out of my mouth. Frickin' fantastic. And it's like you set the bar high and you always do more than is required.
What is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film industry or in life?
To be a good leader. That took me a long time. When I was a kid, I was bullied like crazy. They did horrible things to me as a kid, and it was so weird because my dad was bullied by the same individuals that their dad's kids.
Oh, Jesus. It's like it's like a movie, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was crazy. It's like the Nolans bullied my dad, and then their kids bullied me. It was insane. So when I came up the ladder, I had a chip on my shoulder. I was somebody that just, I was going to get to the top, and I was going to take out some people on the way. And I was angry at times. I think I was, somewhat talked down to people. I didn't it was my way or the highway. And, it took me a long time to realize that I need to lead much better. And it's like I said, it took me probably 15 years to learn that. And that was way too long. Right. And now I have crews that will go to the end of the earth for me because I set the tone in a way that they are all part of the mission and no one is talked down to, and we are all in this together. And I try to wear my heart much more out on my sleeve because I had to bury it so far down when I was bullied. I was just tortured so much that I just buried that heart. I buried that compassion. I buried all that.
Right.
And now I finally have come out of my proverbial shell and have really, through the education, and this is a testament to my wife, because I think really in 2009 and 2010, the 12, that was the linchpin to really start to be a better leader. And trust me, I've failed even along that process. In 2018, I failed on a movie, and I just want to be very transparent. These are things that you go through as a creative. There's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of things that are brought to the forefront, and you need to understand how to unite that team and take care of that team and listen to that team, as well as listening to production and having their best interests at heart, and then listening to the director. I call it the 33.3 because before it was 100% whatever the director wanted. And that's where I was not a good leader, because no matter what the director said, I just made it happen. Even if I had to push it through a dime-sized hole, that thing was pushed. And now I look back at my career and I was like, you know what? Now I see that it's 33% is the director's vision, and 33% is the production. Is taking care of them and their budget and making things work, and not just, saying this is what the director wanted, this is what the director wanted, this is what the director wanted. More like, okay, how can we reach a compromise that works for production and the director feels very good about? And it's supporting your team and being there for them and thinking about the safety.
Right.
And especially in these COVID times.
Oh
I mean, I
God. Yeah.
big scare down in Atlanta just recently where they just kept on getting, 4 positive COVIDs every other day and us just shutting down. I'm like, guys, the protocols aren't working. Everything that you've put in practice is not working. The people that we've hired obviously are not understanding it either, because you don't go out to block parties with thousands of people and then go in and start working on the lead actors, right? This is not the way you move and push forward in this climate, right? And it's a mindset. The COVID, if it's taught me anything, we have to stop being the me generation and we have to start becoming the we.
Amen.
It's thinking about everyone and how your actions are going to affect everyone, not just yourself. And that was the biggest takeaway. I just saw everyone being so narcissistic and whatever they wanted to do. If they wanted to go out and drink and party, it didn't matter that they were doing the hair and makeup on number one on the call sheet. They just did it. Well, that cannot happen.
Right.
That's not the days are gone in that regards. We need to think about everyone and the compassion and caring of each individual. And I constantly, what I never did is I never put myself in the shoes that I was barking the orders out to.
Right.
And that's the biggest switch for me. It's like, okay, if I'm going to bark these orders out to somebody, how is that going to feel if I'm the recipient of it? Am I going to feel good when I tell them that, I call them out in front of everyone? There's sometimes when you need to do that, but you want to do it in a way that has an inspirational way. And there's one way to downtrodden, but then there's another way to say, guy, I understand you're trying your best, but you got to do better. Like we had a digital utility that showed up 3 days late. In a row. And, in a pool of many technicians, that guy would have been kicked to the side. And I just went up to him and I said, here's the deal. I see the passion that you had during our prep. I saw how much you read all the manuals and made all my systems that nobody knows how to work. You made that all happen. So I see that you love what you do. You can't be late. And I'm going to give you one more chance. I've given you 3. But what you need to do is you need to come in 30 minutes earlier. Because you know what? I'm here. I'm usually here an hour before the camera trucks even open up. Why? Why am I there? I'm taking my time. I walk through the sets. I'm looking at the sheets. I'm envisioning the light. I'm envisioning the blocking. I'm doing all that. So you come in an hour early. You open up the trucks. You get all the gear ready for everyone. You get my monitors all set up. You get the comm system set up. So when I walk in and the crew walk in, you're handing everyone their comm system, and communication is key. And that dude turned around the next day. So it's like, it's tough love at some points, but also caring and compassion and trying to inspire them by seeing their best attributes and really kind of fueling that and then guiding them in a way that has some kid gloves.
As opposed to calling him out on set or abusing him or yelling at him or, how dare you jump off the condor that's about to go into the ravine.
Exactly.
Like instead of that way of going about it. I still can't believe that story. I still can't believe that guy yelled at you. Like, are you kidding? I just dumped 2 stories. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Now you're doing, and that's, what you've said is absolutely right. And, when I direct, I do the exact same thing. I try to be as cool as I can, but sometimes you do need tough love. And sometimes you got to pull somebody aside and give them a good talking to, because attitude is attitude, ego is ego, especially in this business.
Exactly. And one thing that I've always tried to do, and I think this is the last bit of advice I want to give,
sure,
is you have to be humble.
Yeah. Amen.
Because arrogance and ego will drive you in ways that are not good. And I always try to be humble. When I walk on set, everyone comes up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, Shane, you're a legend." I get all this praise, which is awesome. But at the same time, I never let it go to my head. I'm I'm sitting there talking to them about, what they did this weekend, and they're part of my team. It's not me being the hierarchy, even though that's how it's set up, but I treat everyone equally, and I want to toss gasoline on anything that they have passion about,
Right.
and trying to kind of flip the switch to them, even the people that have come off of the oil dike or just come off the construction site. I'm trying to fill them with that filmmaking passion that I had when I came into film school and started to have these aha moments and everything. I'm trying to bring that to them through the Hurlbut Academy and through, just being on set as a cinematographer, as somebody that just wants to continue to educate the future filmmakers of tomorrow.
Shane, I really appreciate you being on the show, man. And it has been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate everything you're doing for the community with your education, as well as just making cool films over the last year. So I appreciate what you do, my friend. Keep
Well,
doing what you do. So thanks so much, my friend.
thank you so much, Alex. It was an absolute pleasure, and I loved your questions. Right on the money. This is the kind of stuff that I want to open up. There's
Yeah.
transparency with me, and that's what I think people really respond to as
Yeah.
well. Like I said, staying humble. I'm not using my ego and arrogance to say this is who I am and this is what I do. No, I've failed a lot, and I've not been a great leader at times. And I want to express those and say that I change, and even though that I'm at my 57 years old, I still feel like I'm a 5-year-old out there, and absolutely love what I do, and I've created a long successful career as a cinematographer, and I want to keep on going.
My friend, I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, take care.